Enjoy huge savings with ID Mobile in our Black Friday event. Save up to £110 on the Google.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Is this on? Yep. Yep. Good evening, everyone. For those of you that might not know me, I am Ella Bevan, and I am chairman of this great club. I'm very honoured to be so. It is my duty tonight to welcome you to the 12th annual season ticket holders forum. I can clearly remember the very first season ticket holder forum we had on February the 28th, 2013. That was the brainchild of my brother, Leon Barwell, who decided that it would be a good course of action to promote our engagement with our supporters and our club, and therefore enhance the dialogue. I think the headline was that we want to go back to good old-fashioned rugby values and get some more face-to-face rather than the online comments that we were getting at that time. So I am very proud that we still continue to do this event to this day. It gives us a chance to tell you a little bit more about what's going on at the club, on and off the field. But more importantly, it gives us a chance to listen to you, our valued season ticket holders and supporters, about what you want to ask the questions and your opinions. So the format for tonight is going to be slightly different. We're going to start off with a presentation from Julia Chapman, our CEO, and then she will hand over to Phil, and he will do a presentation. That will then leave us enough time for some questions from you and also some pre-submitted questions that we have had over the week. We have a sort of red line at 8:15 for the end of the questions. So I will not stand here any longer because I will hand over to Julia and she can kickstart the evening.
I've got a laptop on it. Thank you. Thank you, Ella. Is my microphone working? Excellent. So thank you all. Welcome here tonight. As Ella says, it's a really great opportunity for us to hear from you directly. We're going to present a little bit at the beginning, just to head off some of your questions and hopefully address some of the things that are on your mind, and then we'll open up the floor and we can take questions and hopefully answer them this evening. So I thought I would start talking about women's rugby this year. Whoa, sorry. Given that we were one of the host venues for the Women's Rugby World Cup this summer, and I think anyone that came to any of the matches here at Cinch Stadium would have seen what a fantastic occasion that was. We had teams from 9 different countries across 6 different matches on 4 different dates. Sorry. Sorry, poor planning on our part. And at the same time, it gave us the opportunity to showcase the 16 international players that play for our Lightning women's team across the tournament. As well as being a really important event for us here at the Saints, it was a massive occasion for Northampton as a town. And one of the things we do try to do here at Cinch Stadium is bring not just the rugby, but a wide variety of other events to boost the local economy. So we saw something like 45% of people that attended the tournament stayed in hotels overnight, ate in local restaurants, supported local shops and businesses. It was massively supported by the council, by the community, and by the Women's Institute particularly. So more than 48,500 people came through the gates here at Cinch Stadium during the course of that tournament. And of those 48,500 people, 35% of them had never been to watch a women's rugby match before. 50% of them had never been to Cinch Stadium at Franklin's Gardens before. And 95% of them said they would attend women's rugby again in the future. So I think that's a huge success, and what a massive opportunity that is for us to keep those people engaged in rugby going forwards. I thought at this point it might be worth talking a little bit about our partnership with Loughborough University. We get a lot of questions about who are Loughborough Lightning, are they Northampton Saints? I was actually asked by a supporter post-match last season after one of our double headers, do you have a women's team? And I had to accept that match they just watched was our women's team. So I thought it was worth just explaining a little bit more about how that partnership works. So it is a partnership between Northampton Saints and Loughborough University. And broadly, Loughborough looks after the performance side of things, so they employ the players, they look after their recruitment, their retention, their development. All of the coaches, the S&C and medical staff are employed by Loughborough University, and all of the training takes place in the amazing facilities that they have up there. They also have a separate kit deal, they look after all of the equipment, and they're the custodians of the Lightning brand, which is a sporting brand more broad than just rugby. So, for example, they have a Lightning netball team that plays in the Netball Super League, and they're very proud of that prestigious brand at the university. Northampton Saints looks after the commercial side of things, so we are the home stadium for all of Lightning's league games. We look after all of the match day operations, and we also look after the publicity of the team. So we have a great team here who do all of the social media content, they manage the website, we drive the ticket sales, and then we also have a team in our commercial function that deal with commercial partnerships. We announced 2 new partnerships specifically for Lightning over the last few weeks, and we've got another one in the pipeline. So this time last year we had no dedicated Lightning partners, and now we've got 3, which is, you know, just testament to the growth of the women's rugby. We also have a really thriving community operation driving the grassroots participation of women and girls across the region. And then there's a load of areas that we collaborate on across all of those areas, but specifically strategy, funding, the governance, and how we interact with the league and the RFU. So we're determined that having had the World Cup here this season will drive a legacy for our women's rugby, and these are just some of the areas that we're targeting. And we're already seeing evidence of growth, not just here, but at the league, across the league more broadly. We've already sold more than double the number of season tickets that we sold last season for Lightning Rugby, and we've had some of the highest attendances, having only had 2 games so far this season. We're up at the sort of maximum attendance levels that we saw last year. So it's a really positive, good news story, and hopefully lots more growth to come. So on to Northampton Saints. So I'm going to start with talking a little bit about our financial results. So we will be reporting our accounts for the 24-25 season over the next couple of weeks. They'll be going into the public domain. So I won't be able to give you all the details tonight, but I will be able to give you some pretty good headlines. And the first thing that we're really, really pleased to say is that we have grown our revenue for the 4th consecutive year since the end of the COVID pandemic. And that revenue growth represents 7% increase on the previous season being the season that we won the Prem. So that was quite a hard benchmark to attain and to exceed. We have delivered £23.5 million of revenue. We talk about underlying revenue because there are some accounting complexities which I won't go into tonight. That's the important number. It's a 7% increase year on year. We also improved our losses by £1 million. And although, I mean, that is a staggering improvement in 1 year, it is still a loss, unfortunately, that we will be reporting, but we have made big strides in reducing the level of those losses. And our closing cash position at the end of the year was 1.7 million better than at the end of the previous season. So I think, you know, albeit in a loss-making situation, they are a strong set of results that we're really pleased about. And in terms of what drove those results, I mean, you will probably have seen this slide numerous times, but we talk a lot about this virtuous circle of on and off pitch performance. So you cannot really separate the two. So the year before the one we're reporting on now, we won the Prem, and we really saw a massive halo effect of that win running into last season. And that really drives the commercial side of things, which then hopefully means we can reinvest back into the rugby to keep that virtuous cycle going. So we got 3 home playoff matches last year. That drove about £600,000 of extra profit to our bottom line from those 3 games. And so they're really critically important. And, you know, the most obvious example of that on-pitch performance driving the commercial success. Ticketing, we sold out season tickets for the first time last year, and that was a 17% increase in the number of season ticket holders compared to the season before. We had 9 sell-out matches, and if I fast forward that slide to this season, we sold out season ticket again this season. We did that 2 months earlier than the year before. And all of our Prem matches, so that's 3 so far this season, have also been a sellout. Retail last year, we grew our retail sales by 15%. That was a record level of retail sales that we'd never achieved before, and was actually a 50% increase on 2 years previously. It was the year that we launched our new crest, and we do think that although there were some mixed responses to that, we do think it drove some quite substantial uplift in our retail sales. It's the first time we've ever had to restock our home kit in the autumn, well ahead of Christmas. Again, fast forwarding to this season, and our retail so far is growing again on the same time last year, so we're 5% up on this time last year, and again we're doing another restock this time of the training wear. Digital is another way that we measure our performance. So we have a great team of people in-house who develop some fantastic engaging content. And we're also really lucky that we have a rugby department that allow us really unfettered access into their environment. And that enables us to create some stuff that's really, really special. And it seems to be resonating with our supporters. So we've grown the number of followers. We have 631,000 followers last season, which was a 23% increase year on year. 177 million impressions, up 31%. And number of, I can't even read it from here, number of engagements and number of video views. I mean, those video views are the thing I was just talking about. And again, fast forwarding to this season, those metrics are growing again. So, I mean, really some very, very substantial growth. So a 95% increase in video views and a 264% increase in impressions compared to this time last year. So lots and lots of positive metrics on how things are going. And we are seeing also some really positive signs of growth at Prem Rugby level. And I think that you've seen the likes of Red Bull coming in and seeing rugby as a really investable product. And some of these growths are the reason why they've seen this as an opportunity. So club occupancy, that's the number of people actually coming to Stadia across the league as a whole, is 14% higher than it was 3 years ago. 14% more people attending the final. The final was sold out last season for the second time in record time, and the rate of sale for tickets for the final this season is faster than ever. Just a little word of warning if you wanted to hedge your bets there. The marketable database, so that's the number of people that have opted in to hear from Prem Rugby about what's going on, is up by 124% compared to 3 years ago. Social following up by a third. Social engagement nearly doubled. I wonder what's driving that. And fandom. So fandom, what do we mean by this? We mean supporters, and we mean audience. And we've been talking for years about how audience growth is one of the most important things that we can do to ensure the sustainability and success of the Premiership going forwards. And to have that grown by 45% in 3 years is a really, really positive sign. So they are just some metrics from the club and from around the league. But the other metric that is really, really important for us, and one that we do look at quite obsessively here at the club, is how our supporters are feeling. So at the end of every match and at the end of every season, we send out a questionnaire. We don't send it to the same people every time, it gets boring. We send it to about a third of our season ticket holders and everyone who's bought a match ticket. And we ask you about various different metrics on how you enjoyed your experience at the match that day. Last season, 91% of supporters rated their overall experience 8 or higher out of 10. So we think that's not bad. We're reasonably happy with that, but that gives us 2 to go after in terms of improvement. And we know that there are a number of areas that we can improve on. So we've pulled out from the most recent surveys the things that are bothering you at the moment, and I just wanted to touch on a few of those. So firstly, what happened to the pasties? So this is probably the number one feedback that we And I have to say, I am in your number because this was my go-to place for food on a match day, partly because I like them, partly because they were quite quick to serve, so the queue moved really rapidly. So the answer is actually the pasty provider was coming from Newport in Wales and decided that it was no longer viable for them and they didn't want to continue coming to the Saints. The mistake I think we made was not realising how wedded you all were to your pasties, so we replaced it with pies. And we have subsequently put pasties back in. So you can, they're not the West Cornwall, they are very nice and they're available in more places around the stadium than they were before. So hopefully everybody that wants one can now find one to their satisfaction. A second area that we get a lot of feedback on is the queues, and particularly when there's a clash with the cobblers, the queues leaving the car parks. This has proven to be a really knotty problem for us to try and solve. And we do try, and I think sometimes you get the feedback that, you know, staff weren't trying or it was ridiculous. Whatever. We do try quite hard to fix this problem. We are looking at some things again at the moment to see if we can make some improvements in this area. Reality is a lot of cars trying to leave at the same time down a small road. There's always going to be an element of this that we can't control. But I think there are some things around the edges that we can do. We have also this season done a partnership with the cobblers, so I know it's a little bit further, but you can park that little bit further away, walk and probably get out more quickly. Obviously not if they have a home game, but at all of the matches, that's another option. Guinness Zero, very, very popular, has been in short supply nationally this season, so it hasn't been available in every bar. We've been trying to get it everywhere that we can, but this is something that's outside of our control. And then queuing in the village. So actually this is sort of the cloud that goes with the silver lining of all those sellout games and that increase in attendance, is that with more people in that congested space, the queues are taking longer and it's much harder to kind of weave your way through when it's busy. We have actually got a project that has been well underway for a while now. It's not quite at the stage where I can talk to you in detail about it this evening, but we are looking to open up and expand the supporter village a little bit, ease that congestion, improve the space, make it more easy to navigate and reduce some of those queues on a match day. It's a big project that requires planning consent, so we'll be able to share more information on that with you once we've got those plans properly drawn up and ready to submit. The PA system, again, this is one that comes up, and we have actually worked extremely hard to try and resolve this. The season before last, the system was faulty, and it took us quite a while to diagnose the root cause. We did fix it, and we did install additional speakers. I think we're at the point now where there isn't a huge amount we can do without replacing the whole system. That's quite a capital-intensive project, and one that we have to think carefully about whether that's the best place for us to be spending our budget. And then finally, match day entertainment. And this is, again, an area where it's really hard to please everybody. So we're trying to make sure, our loyal supporter base that have been coming here for years are getting something that they enjoy. We're also trying to engage and resonate with a new and younger audience. If you look at the questions in our post-match survey and we ask people, how did you enjoy the DJ, the band, the singer, the soloist, the saxophonist, it's the one question where the answers are really, really evenly spread. There isn't one or two things that are really, really popular with people. So I think the answer is to just keep rotating, trying different things, hoping that across the course of a season there are a number of things that appeal to everybody. And an example of that would be the noise meter that we added at the end of during the last game. Which I think I didn't know what was going on when everybody started shouting. I was looking the other way. Am I missing something? But those sorts of things, they're a bit of fun. We won't use them every game, but we'll use them from time to time to add an extra dimension to the matchday experience. And then I think just to finish, these are the scores across all of the matches that we had last season. And you can see three notable sort of... And we work very hard to deliver a match day experience which is excellent regardless of the results on or off the pitch. But if you were to hazard a guess at which games we sadly didn't win at home last season, it would be no surprise that it was those three. And that's absolutely as it should be, right? This is what you're here for. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Phil to talk about matters on the pitch.
It's green. So you only have a good time when we win, is that right? Yeah. Me too, by the way. I just wanted to say and start off by saying thank you very much for your continued support. And I think you see that home record, those three losses I'll probably allude to shortly, but we've got a great record at home, and that's largely down to the support we receive here, and that's down to you guys, so thank you very much. I've hot-footed over from Bedford. We're training against the Blues tonight with that relationship, and so all the players and all the coaches are there currently, so apologies I'm not dressed a little bit more smartly. A lot of what I'm going to show tonight is really based on last season and some of the things the coaching group talked about, some of the things the playing group talked about as we headed into this season, and then I can allude a little bit more on what we've gone after in the last sort of 2 months or so. And so looking at last season, this is how we sort of saw it, is great run in Europe, fantastic run in Europe, had a lot of fun doing that. We came, painfully close to winning that, and a few things going our way, a couple of injuries early on, etc., and I include Timo in that as well. And 6 points adrift from getting another trophy, I think speaks volumes and underlines the quality of the squad we have. I think finishing 8th in the table is clearly not acceptable from my point of view and from the players' point of view with that quality. And so we had a bit of a sort of a contrast there in terms of those fortunes. And if you look there where I've highlighted, we'd won 8 games, and the team in 4th had won 12, and had won 10, and in 3rd, and obviously bonus points was another thing as well that we were going after. So although we finished in 8th, the table is tight, the margins are very small, and it's that consistency of performance that I'm going to sort of talk about tonight. This was basically our season. This is just a graphic that we use as a coaching group in terms of how it looks. Obviously, ticks are wins, and the red crosses are losses. And fundamentally, what I've just mentioned there with regards to Europe, when we have everybody available, when we're going full strength, we've been successful. When we haven't got them available, this isn't going out live, is it? So fundamentally, what's happening? What's happening is for Bristol Bears away. It's a training camp and we don't have access to the England players. When we're playing after one of our worst performances of the season at home was Gloucester, when lads have come out of that England environment and we're trying to get them back together and we're trying to get them going again in the Saints way, having been through, to be honest, in all the situations which are very different, through an emotional roller coaster. You've gone from being one of the best players in the league here to going to England and not playing. That's hard to take for somebody who's very ambitious. You've gone from being in that environment where you've been playing every week and then you're on the bench or you're not getting an opportunity, or on the flip side, you're getting everything you want and you've played really well and you've played 80 minutes in 4 games in the autumn, and then now I'm saying, listen, you've got to go and put your head where it hurts against Gloucester. That's a challenge, and I think they're the sort of problems and some of the issues that we faced last year. And there's a talk about 4 games. The difference between being in the top 4 and being out of the top 4 was 2 games, and there's 4 games there where we haven't had access to those players. And so fundamentally what we've talked about is that fixture list and selection decisions and the reintegration of internationals. That was one of the things. This season's a far less conflicted calendar. It's not completely deconflicted, regardless of what the media will tell you, but it's far less conflicted, and therefore creating more depth within our squad, both through how we sign people, how we improve people, how we give people experience, and how we give people opportunity on the pitch, and how fast can we improve that next man in mentality. So if there's going to be internationals away at the end of this block, when we go and play Bristol away, how ready can the next group be through this PRC block, through their IDPs in terms of their development plans and all those sorts of processes. The experience of last year will undoubtedly have put us in a great spot this year, because those lessons that we learned as a coaching group, those lessons that somebody like Courtney Laws could do so easily because he'd come out of so many international camps and been asked to play, now Finn, Tommy, Dingers, Henry have had a year of that experience, and they'll become better at that change, that move, that psychological battle to make sure they get back into the Saints way. And then the run towards the fight mindset, and I think I'll allude to it in a sec, but I'll come back to that in a second. But an away trips in pre-season to focus on what winning away entails as well. So our home record, as I've mentioned, pretty strong. Away record, not so good. So basically what we went after is consistency of performance. We know that when we're on it, when we've got our group together, we're a match for anybody on our day. And when we're not, we've got to make sure that we're better at it. Part of that comes through recruitment, and obviously with Finn being away for certain games and missing the front couple of games of this season, Anthony becomes a really big signing for us, for somebody who can guide that ship, who can kick goals. And I think you'll all agree the impact that he's had within the group. Just as an aside, in the last 2 seasons, how many times have we won away? Once? Julie would have fired me by now. And if you look at the margins of victory in all of those games, regardless of who we're playing against, and for such tight margins again, like the league is tight, the away games are tight, and we talked about winning away from home. And I think the two fixtures, although the results, and you look at the bottom of there and you go, geez, we've conceded 40 points and not scored many, the attitude and the application of the players we had Exeter away and Gloucester away was that run towards the fight mindset. That gave us a confidence that actually, against Exeter, I think at half-time it was 21-14. And we had people like Henry Lumley and Finn Brown and all these guys stepping up, getting that Premiership experience that we can now use this season in terms of moving forward. And I think that attitude and that mindset of not only learning what to do on the pitch, but learning how to perform, learning how to be disciplined but aggressive at the same time, under pressure, away from home. So I think those two results last year for me were really important. Obviously, new coaching staff coming in as well in terms of changing that consistency of performance, a different voice, a different attitude, a different way of doing things. I think is important to keep the environment fresh. I love Ferg, and he did a great job, and he's doing a great job at Quins. But I just felt that it was time to slight change, and for Manny to have a different input and to have different ideas from somebody who's coached all over the world in South Africa and Japan as well. And there's some in-game adjustments as well, and this is obviously a very, very short list of some of the things we looked at. But we were the lowest penalties for offsides in the league, which is fantastic. Last year we gave the fewest penalties away for offside. That's a penalty that we can control. Can't control what the referee does at scrum time. He does what he wants, much to my displeasure. But from an offside point of view, we can control that, and we were very, very disciplined with that. Third for 22 entries, but entries to try ninth. So we were moving the ball up the pitch really nicely, getting into the opposition 22, but we weren't converting enough opportunities. We focused on that, and this season we've got one of the highest percentages of return in terms of getting into those areas of the field. And that's come down to clarity of message from the coaching group, but also upskilling people like TJ, Johnny Weeman. So much of our attack in that area comes through Alex Mitchell. If Alex Mitchell's not available, what do we do in those spaces? And again, I think our return on that has been very good. This next one's very interesting. The ruck offence, well, for me, I don't know. Ruck offence, we were the ninth. We're the ninth worst. We're apart from Newcastle, we're the worst for giving penalties away at the ruck. Holding on, we were the worst team for holding on. No team would penalise more than the Northampton Saints last year for holding on to the ball. Now that comes with playing with the ball in hand and our style of play to a degree, but Bristol and Quins are sides that also do similar and didn't have that many. But we were the least penalised for off feet at the ruck. So that tells me that we can actually cheat more at the ruck, if I'm honest. We have to be more vicious, more brutal, more physical at the ruck, at the breakdown, to avoid having these holding on penalties and to push the referees to make decisions on what's happening at the breakdown. And I think I could show you a million clips of how our breakdown has gone through the roof in terms of its energy, and it's just been a bit looser. We've been less sterile in that area, and I think that's had a big impact on our attacking performance, particularly in the killer area, which I just talked about. And this lost ball force 10th is we're the worst side when we went into contact of spilling the ball. Now, again, that might come from the fact we want to make offloads, but it's also looking after the ball, and we call that ball tough. We want to be ball tough in those areas, and that's one of the things we've gone after as well in terms of what the stats told us last year to some of the things we've tried to implement this year. And then moving on, obviously, trying to keep hold of this group and the cohesion of this group. That's one of the things that, obviously, we talked about that virtuous circle. Performance on the pitch drives performance off the pitch and vice versa. And I think the opportunity to keep some of the best players in the world playing their home games on this pitch is vital for our success, undoubtedly. You know, what makes good coaches is good players. And so, you know, we're very fortunate to have kept some of those guys, and that work continues. I won't blather on anymore, but fundamentally what I finish every meeting with is commit and compete, and we've got a very committed group. From the senior guys who've been on British Lions tours to the guys who are coming in their first year through the academy, are working incredibly hard and are incredibly engaged with each other around what they're trying to do for the club in front of you guys as well. And we always want to be competing at every single opportunity, whether it's line out, scrum, breakdown, high ball, moving to compete and to work hard for each other is fundamentally what we go after. So I thought I'd leave you with that as what we're going after. All good?
So thank you, Phil and Julia, for that. And really informative presentations, but I'm sure that you've still got loads of questions that you want to ask. I'm feeling that the questions will go that way a little bit more this evening, which for those of you that know me, I'm going to find that really difficult because I'm a bit chatty. But my job really tonight now is to direct questions when they're received from the floor to the appropriate person, and any pre-submitted question I will pass on to the right person. Liz and Will, where are they? They are the people with the roaming mics that look like Rubik's Cubes. Please, can you make sure that when it's your turn to ask the question, that you don't start asking the question until that is situated in your hands. That way, everybody in the room and the people that are watching from home can hear your question. So I think we're going to kick off with one that came through earlier in the week, and it's for Phil, and it's from Dominic Newbold. He says, we play on an utterly magnificent pitch. Well done to the grounds team. What are the precise dimensions of the pitch compared with other clubs and stadiums? And does our current style of play favour a wider pitch than other teams who like to play a less expansive game? What type of pitch does Dowse like best, and are there any you dislike, e.g. 4G?
Thanks,
you can take
Dominic.
all of that in order.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what the dimensions are. But yes, the way we want to play, I think it's obvious that we want to have an attacking threat across the field, and we want to play an entertaining type of rugby, and I think we do that. And I think obviously the pitch dimensions help that. I think there's a minimum required standard, and there's obviously a maximum you can have as well, and there's obviously a maximum within the stadium. So Welford Road is, for whatever reason, quite a small pitch. Basically based in their stadium, and I think there's lots of different, and that's part of the fun of it as well. You go to different places and you find it. You go to Stad last year, and it's one of the worst 4G pitches I've ever seen in terms of the quality of it, and I think they're changing that. I'm nervous around 4G pitches. There's lots of evidence coming out of the NFL around ACLs and knee injuries, ankle injuries. So I'm nervous around them, but I also understand their benefit in terms of getting children on it and playing on it regularly, and using that as a opportunity. So more research needed on the 4G. Our pitch is beautiful, and Andy and his team do an incredible job. Make sure we only use it for walkthroughs and games, and if anyone walks on it, I shout at them. So we're very, very fortunate to have such a beautiful pitch, and it's great that we play on grass and in that traditional way.
Excellent, thank you. So if we go to the floor, if you'd just like to raise your hand if you've got a question that you would like to ask any of the panel. Liz, shall we go? And then we'll go here, yeah.
Hi, one for Phil.
Sorry, if you'd say your name first, that would be great.
Bob Smith.
Thank you.
The guys that are away with England at the moment are playing a various amounts of minutes. Will that have an impact on whether you've got to rest them after the internationals?
Yeah, that will have an impact. It's mandated that if a player plays, even if he doesn't get on, if he's involved in the match day 23 of all 4 games, they need a week off, and they'll take a week off. And that week has to be taken within the first 3 weeks post that tournament. So after autumn, 3 weeks, which would be Bristol, Po, or the Bulls, and then post Six Nations. Again, if they play in every game in the Six Nations, they require a week off. I think it's also worth just referring back to my last answer in terms of, you look at Finn Smith as an example last year. He comes in the Six Nations as second choice, sits on the bench, comes on, does really well. By the end of the tournament, he's England's next man, the next Johnny Wilkinson. This huge media pressure, huge spotlight, and actually, even if he hadn't played in all those games, is it the best thing for him from a long-term point of view, as in the run-in, to have a week off as well? So it's not just a case of we have to give him a week off, so we'll give him a week off. If they're mentally fried, then it might be worth giving them a week off as well. And we do that on a case-by-case basis to get the most out of those players this week, next week, and in 2 years' time.
Thank you.
Hi, Andrew Tidbury, and I just wondered 2 questions actually. One, there's a debt refinance coming up, I think, in a little short period of time. what are the options around that from a refi perspective, etc.?
Is that for me?
No, not for you, Phil. You can pass that one over. I've got one for you coming as well. And then the second side, the squad's improved significantly this season, I think, from my perspective that I've seen. How hard is that going to be to balance everybody coming back from international fixtures and then managing the team through to the end of the season?
Shall I take the debt question first? So we, as most of the other clubs, borrowed money from DCMS as part of the survival package through the COVID pandemic. We borrowed £8.4 million, which is not an insubstantial amount of money. We've paid off about £600,000 of that loan so far. We did have a reprofile agreed recently. So we would have been due to pay quite a substantial repayment, including a lot of rolled up interest that's been accruing over the last 4 years in September of this year. And we approached DCMS to request a reprofile. So we'll still pay all of the debt back. It just smooths the profile so we don't end up with this big sort of lump that we had to pay this year. It spreads that over the remaining term. So it's still the same length. It's still the same amount we need to pay back. It's just a bit more manageable. So they've been really quite reasonable in terms of recognising that the best way of guaranteeing that they get their money back is to support clubs in making it a bit more easy to facilitate those repayments.
Yeah, just on your second question, I think the signings we made have fitted in really well, and I think I'm very tentative to worry about any of those selection issues because injury raises its ugly head more often than not, and we need everybody to contribute, and sometimes those contributions come from really unlikely corners, and that's why I make a big song and dance really in every meeting about how everybody needs to be on page because at some point it's going to be your turn. So yeah, I think the new signings have been excellent. I think another year of maturity, like we said, with the group that played last year, is positive, and I think we started well. But again, it's early days.
Okay, anybody else? I'm sure there'll be lots. Oh, crikey! Oh, yep.
Hi, Charlotte Cheshire. The Lightning shop seems rather disappointing compared to the Saint shop. Is there a plan to expand what's available to buy?
So we have actually added some additional lines this season, but we've got to be proportionate with the number of people who are coming to the games and supporting Lightning. So although we've seen really positive signs of growth, it's still a relatively small supporter base compared to the Saints men's following. We're also not in control of the kit deal here at the club, so that's something that's managed by Loughborough University as part of their they have a university-wide kit deal. So that's a little bit out of our hands in terms of volumes and things like that they get. But we will definitely be looking to expand that as the supporter base grows and the demand grows, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take one from the screen here, from Hayden Carson. I think this is for you, Phil. Is there any update on George Furbank and Ollie Slight home injuries and when they may return to the field?
Yeah, they're both playing this weekend, actually.
Hey!
Yeah, hugely frustrating for George. He had a horrible year last year, and the start of this year, wasn't much better. So we've been particularly conservative in his return to play to make sure that it gives him every opportunity to put a decent run of games, get some confidence back, and get some miles into the legs. Ollie, again, had a year that was frustrating, basically, and because he is so athletic, we have to be very careful about the one thing you don't want to do with soft tissues is recurrent injuries, and so, again, we've been fairly slow reintegrating those two guys back.
Is there a bit of a psychological mindset that they have to sort of overcome before they play again, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the same with anyone who has an injury, particularly after surgery. So guys like Sam Graham and Robbie Smith and Berg Rondal and Charlie Savala, obviously, as well last year, is to get some trust back into that, I think from your injuries. So I think it's getting that first contact in, and Robbie Smith actually played for Bedford and got sat down, as in he got bumped off by a tackler, and we gave him a load of stick, and he actually said, I felt really good because it didn't hurt my knee. And it just went to show where his mindset was, that as he landed on his backside, the first thing he was thinking about was his knee. And as soon as you get through that and you get confidence in it, you stop thinking about it and you carry on. So yeah, there's definitely, I think that's more than half the battle.
Brilliant. Well, we look forward to seeing them in action on Saturday. Any questions from the room? Yep, over there for me, Liz.
Hi, Ian. Question for Phil. Thank you for creating the environment that all our top players are so happy in, and all signing new contracts at the moment. Absolutely brilliant news. But I just wondered, I'm sure it's been asked before, I can't remember the answer, why don't we announce the actual lengths of the contracts? It always seems to say multi-year contract.
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously not been in my selection meetings because not everybody's happy. There's normally, outside the 23, a lot of really annoyed people. The length of contract announcement is really based on making sure agents and other clubs can keep their filthy hands off our players, and so that they can't then actually... We spend a lot of time trying to future-proof our squad without really knowing what the fixture list looks like, what the injury list looks like, what the budget looks like, etc., etc. So we spend a lot of time trying to work out what the best way forward is, and we know other clubs do that. And if they know, for example, somebody's off contract next year, then they become a target and they start to work on it with the agent and this, that, and the other. So I think it just gives it a bit of a fluffy edge around when people are actually approached, because it's happening all the time. So I think it's just a way of trying to manage that in any small way we can.
Thank you. I think there's a question over there. Yep.
Yeah, hi, Gareth, for Phil. Lee Radford made a massive impact when he joined us a few years ago, and we lost him this year. What is the impact of losing someone like Lee, and how do you get over that with other coaching staff?
We haven't lost him. We know exactly where he is. And he'll be with us. Julia made the point to me yesterday around the fact that we have such a long runway now to work out how to transition and move that along. Lee Blackett has walked out of Bath and joined England. Danny Wilson's walked out of Quins and joined Wales, and they have an immediate hole to fill. Radis is here for the rest of the season. He'll continue to develop and push, and we'll continue to learn from him and his experience on the international stage. I think Lee leaving, it's very hard for me to stand in front of a group and say, we want you to come to Northampton Saints as players and push as hard as possible to play at the top level, to play for the British Lions, to play international rugby, and then not share that ethos with the coaching group. And because of the work that Lee's done in really changing the club and putting us where we are at the moment, based on both his attitude and his technical understanding, is huge. And so I think those people are always going to move on because they're high quality, and we just got to make sure that we support them in doing that, and we also learn as much as possible from them as well. And like you said, we've got time in which to make sure that transition is both smooth and the right decision.
Thank you. Where's our next question coming from? Is it coming from the screen? Yep, let's go to the screen. So we're going for Ewan Purcell, who says, the club has spoken a lot about the importance of bringing the game to a new generation. What progress do you feel we have made, and what progress do we have to make still? So Julia, I think that's probably one for you.
Yeah, and I think it's a difficult question in many ways, because this is clearly something that's going to take more than a few years to achieve. So it's something that happens slowly through evolution rather than overnight. And I think what we're seeing is really positive signs. I shared some of the data earlier around things like growth in social media engagements and growth in attendances. We saw through the women's tournament how many families and girls and young women come into the game that had never been here before. So there's loads of positive progress being made. The other route, which is really critically important, is through our community pathway. So engaging with people who are 8, 9, 10 years old now, in a similar number of years, they're going to be adults, hopefully coming through our gates. So there's lots of signs that it's going in the right direction. I think we're making good progress. I think we just need to stick at it because it's for the long haul and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. I think the other thing I would say is that, you know, you get players like Henry Pollock who are appealing to that younger generation. The more players like that we can get in the game, and the more that they're embracing that, you know, sort of putting themselves out there, appealing to a different audience, that can only help as well. So that's a really positive sign.
Thank you. I'll go for another one from the screen. Nick Yates, what are the chances of Saints retaining the services of Anthony Bellew past this season? He has been a great addition to the team.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. Tony Bellew is what we call him.
I know,
yeah,
I know.
That's his English name. Or Frenchie, as the lads imaginatively called him. He has been a great addition, and the problem with that is he's played so well, is the fact that he then becomes hot property, and other sides will be looking at him as somebody who can guide them in that sort of decision-making position. He's also hugely ambitious, and he wants to go and play he wants to play for France and get back on the international scene. And currently he's sitting in the number 2 position. I think what I admire probably most about Anthony is the fact that he, and I'm not talking out of school here, he could have gone to other clubs for more money, but he came for the opportunity to play in a different league, to get a break from the top 14 and to be coached in a different environment. And I think that speaks volumes about him from a maturity point of view and from a clarity point of view from what he wants to get out of his career. But the fact is he's ambitious and he wants to be number 1 and he wants to play for France. And there's, because he's such a good player, as you've seen, there'll be lots of clubs looking for him. We, of course, would love to keep him, and we'll try our best to do that.
I assume if he wants to play in France, he's got to play for France. He's got to be playing in France.
Yeah. I think that's the gist. Yeah.
Anyone from the room? Yes, this gentleman here. Liz, Will, it's a race. Oh, we've got rid of the Rubik's Cube.
Good evening, Roy Gilbert. Just going back to the previous question about the younger generations coming in through the club, being involved in the club, and I know you spoke about it last year at the forum, and they are being or going to be the future season ticket holders, players, etc. Can I ask, I've noticed this year, are we doing the open days, or is it only going to be the stadium tours now? Because if it is the case we're only doing stadium tours and not having that wonderful free day where the younger generation come in, they get involved, they see all the wonderful players, the facilities, is that not sort of contradicting?
There will be an open day. There'll be an open day where I think what we did last year, we had an open session where Hoppers and other people were on the microphone giving some insight into what was going on the pitch, and then the players are, I was going to say encouraged, but actually told to then go on and spend as much time with those young fellas as possible. And I think one of the things that resonates in my mind is back when I played and back when I'd watch it on TV, is all the kids would be playing on the pitch afterwards. But obviously, you know, that then has a wear and tear on the pitch, and that's one of the benefits of 4G, is you then, at Saracens, all the players' families, all the kids from the stadium are running around on the pitch having a great time and having the opportunity that we can't do that here, and so we've got to figure out how we interact and connect with those young people. And I think the community team do a fantastic job, and I think the stories of the academy players coming through, you know, I've got pictures of Fraser Dingwall watching, you know, games in the stands, and then captaining and playing for England and being that person who plays for Saints. So there's loads of really good stories around it, and I think we'll continue to try and push that.
Yeah, I'm not saying for a minute we don't do a wonderful job in the community. We do. We can see that. It just concerns me. Obviously, rugby should be a game for everybody, as we all agree, across all sort of social areas. And what I wouldn't like to see is possibly those younger ones being priced out of being able to have the same experience, and it becoming not an elitism, but for more privilege. By having the open days, it's very good, because you can just come in, you apply, you come in, and they have that experience, And that was just something that I'd noticed this season with what had been announced. That's
okay. And just to pick up on that point about stadium tours, is they were never intended to be a replacement for the open day. It's a completely separate sort of product, if you like. So, you know, the opportunity to join a really small group, to have that sort of more informed, narrated tour of the stadium, see some of the behind-the-scenes areas. But you're right, you know, that's a chargeable thing, and that's one thing. It's not intended to replace the open day or to be an alternative to it.
Thank you. I think we've got a question over here.
Oh, it's a question for Phil. Name's Ian Costello. The press have been reporting recently about Tommy Freeman being injured. Do you get regular updates from the England squad on the severity of his injury?
Yeah, we're as part of that relationship with England, and we always have. In fairness, the medical team have very, very strong relationships with the international crew. So from Scotland, Italy, anyone else who's on international duty, we need to make sure we stay on top of that, and that's now done by a central system. So we get updated with scan results, etc. And oftentimes when it gets down to surgery and such, both physios from England and Saints will go and be part of that as well.
Is it severe injury? Do you know?
It's severe enough that he won't be playing any more games for England in the next 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Just standing next to me. Yeah, Kim Starr. Question, Mike Tyndall seems to have gone to ground a little bit. Do you think that the R360, if it takes off, will be a potential threat to the Premiership? Sorry, the Prem.
Yeah, thank goodness for that marketing. I think it'll be a competitor to the Premiership, to the Prem, and I think the point that was made by Michael Checker last year was the one that resonated with me, is that there is the appetite from lots of very experienced sports investors who have invested in some of the biggest leagues in the world, from American sport to the Premier League, etc. And they're interested in investing in rugby. And Julie alluded to the fact that Red Bull have already invested heavily by buying a team. So I think there's the appetite. That shows that there's the appetite, and that's really positive, because whatever we talk about with regards to the bottom line is every club's losing money. There's only one club that I've found that isn't hemorrhaging cash, and that's Bedford Blues and their business model. Every other club worldwide, every other union is losing money, and so I think that's probably a concern. But the fact that R360 have drummed up enough support for that to happen. What actually happens with R360, I don't know, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that they've actually got different eyeballs looking at the game.
Julia, did you want to add anything to the R360, or are we happy with that?
I suppose the only thing I'd add to that is that R360 isn't anything yet. It's an idea and it's a proposition. There's been lots of hype and PR about it, but until it actually launches and we know what it is, I think very much our focus is on what we're doing, on what the league's doing. We've got a really fantastic product. We've got lots and lots of signs of growth. We think there's lots of things going in the right direction. So I don't think we're necessarily being complacent. We're not ignoring it, but it isn't a threat because it isn't in existence yet. So I think we just watch and wait and see what happens there. Focus on what we can control.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I think that it's been really helped that the home unions around the world have all come out in support of their respective leagues to say that any players that wish to play international rugby in those countries, if they go and play for the R360, won't be able to do that. The Aussie Rugby League have come out and said that if any of their players go and play for the R360, then they won't be able to play for 10 years. And the international RPA have also warned their players against it. And you see now that across Europe and the world that we've got players signing for their clubs on multi-year deals, and that speaks volumes in itself, I think. So exactly as Julie and Phil have said, we'd be naive not to contemplate the R360, but at the moment it's all very hypothetical, and what we do know is that the Prem is a great product. Have we got any more from the floor? Yes, thank you.
Hi. Jane Schimmel, are there any plans to put the season tickets as digital ones you can download into your wallet? I took part in took part in a trial a couple of seasons ago. You can buy individual tickets and download them straight into your phone wallets, but my season ticket is still on the card. Is there any plans to make that a more permanent thing?
So yes, so we launched a new website recently, and one of the exciting things about that new website is it gives us the platform to launch a Saints app, and one of the things you'll be able to do in that app is to have a digital ticket in there. So that's coming. Yeah, there is a plan.
Okay, so we'll go to a question from the screen from Colin Bonnet. Are there any thoughts to expanding the stadium as we regularly sell out Prem matches? Is it actually feasible to add to the current capacity or cost effective to expand? I think I can probably answer that, and it's a no. We are very fortunate at the moment that we are selling out the Prem games as we are. The way that the stadium is built, I believe, I will be corrected if I'm wrong, but is that it isn't actually feasible now to add to the current capacity of the stand. So we are the 15,500 seater stadium that we are. Is that correct?
Yes. I guess the other thing just to add to that is that it would be, I don't know if it's impossible, it would certainly be difficult because we're right up against our boundary or other sort of obstructions on a lot of the sides of the stadium, and to go up you need to go back. We've not really seriously assessed whether we could add extra capacity, but I imagine anything that we could add wouldn't be substantial. The other thing though is that we're really delighted at the sellouts that we've had over the last couple of seasons, but I think we're still a little way off being able to say that that's our new norm. And if we were going to pay back that sort of investment, it would probably be a very, very long-term return on investment. So, and also extremely expensive to do. So it's not something that's on our radar at the moment. What we are looking at is how do we fill the remaining capacity that we do have? So if we're selling out certain games, how do we encourage people to come to the games that we're not selling out, where there are still seats available?
Thank you. Question here.
Hi, Alison Farr. I was wondering if there's any consideration been given to having another big screen down on the south stand end, because some of us would wear glasses, it's quite hard to see right down the top.
I know, and if you're sitting there, it's quite difficult to see. Julia?
Yeah, I think this came up last year as well, actually. It has come up once or twice. So it is something that we're conscious of, that there isn't a screen down that end. I would say it's sort of on our list. It's probably not top priority, but it's one that sort of sits there, and at some point, if resources permit, that we'd probably look to do it, yeah.
Any more in the room? If not, I'll go to the screen. So I've got Adrian Mackenzie. When will there be an opportunity to join the supporter engagement group? Julia?
Yes, so for those of you that aren't aware, we have a very much smaller group, which is formed of a group of our supporters who, I would describe it as a little bit of a focus group. So we get together quarterly. I'm looking at some of the members now. Twice a year. And that group brings to us any questions and issues that they may have, and we can put things to them that we can debate a bit more in depth in that smaller environment. So that's been working really successfully so far. We are going to open that up. It probably is due for a bit of a evolution of membership. That's the polite way of putting it. So we will be opening that up to new members later on this year.
Thank you. Any more from the floor? The presentations were obviously way too good, Julia and Phil. So I think the next question on the screen is one that we've already asked. Paul, sorry, that was your question, unless you want to ask it again. But that was about the village development, which Julia covered. And so back to Ewan. Growing our commercial income is crucial to improving our financial sustainability. What medium to long-term plans have we in place to achieve this? Julia?
Oh, I was hoping Phil was going to get that one. So I think we've talked a number of times, and so hopefully it's not a boring answer, but it is a very long-term priority is the growth of the audience. That's critical. That's the thing that drives people through the gates. It drives the value of the TV deal. It drives the engagements on social, and therefore the value for our commercial partners. So growing our audience is the number one priority for the sport. So how do you grow the audience? I think first thing is you play really attractive rugby. You're competitive, you entertain people, and hopefully win. So that's clearly a really top priority for us as a club. The other thing you try to do is insulate people's experience from those on-pitch results. So we talked about earlier, it's what you come here for at the end of the day. But if we can deliver a great experience, regardless of what happens on the pitch, then hopefully people will want to come back regardless of that. So, performance on the pitch, growing the audience, and then I think probably the other priority is we've got a huge stadium here, which we use for match days probably 20 times a year. How can we sweat that asset when we're not using it for rugby and for other events? How can we get people coming here more days of the week, using it for lots of different purposes? That's one of our other key strategies to grow the revenue. There are no silver bullets though, so some of this is about doing lots and lots of things well, rather than one brilliant huge thing that's going to be the magic answer.
Thank you for that. Tom Marlowe Gilks, I've been impressed with the recent Saracens rebrand and merchandise offerings. You've got to be impressed with something at Saracens. Comparing it with our shop and merchandise offerings, I feel like we are getting left behind a little in that regard. Is this something that we have taken note of and take inspiration from? The Macron playing kit is nice, however the other lifestyle kit is very lacking, and I don't believe it really caters to a younger generation, which I know the Saints are actively trying to promote. Julia, I'm not asking Phil about the kit.
Very quick answer.
I did have a chat with our head of retail about this question. We saw it come in earlier. We had a look at the Saracens website. There didn't seem to be a huge number of options on there. So I do think we think we actually do a reasonably good job. We think we've got a decent breadth of range. I think like many things, like we were talking about match day entertainment, clothing is very personal, and what appeals to one person won't necessarily appeal to another. We're always open to suggestions though, so if there's something that people would like to see in the shop, then absolutely we're all ears, and if there's something you've seen you particularly like that you don't think we're doing, then we'd definitely be open-minded about that.
Excellent. Excellent question there at the back.
While we think of it. Phil, do you think that the links we've got with Bedford has sort of replaced the potential need at some point of the Wanderers sort of being recreated with a sort of second team Prem League, especially when you just sort of mentioned about using the stadium? There used to be sort of quite good entertainment going back a few years ago. Can't remember when it was now, but
yeah, I think the landscape of rugby's changed. I think there have been talks over the last couple of seasons about bringing an under-21s or an under-23s league back. But I think fundamentally we're very lucky to have that Bedford relationship. We also have a relationship with Cambridge, with Loughborough Uni, obviously, that Julie's alluded to from a playing point of view, with Hinckley, with Leicester Lions. So there's players playing all different levels to suit them in order to progress them into that first squad. So do we miss the Wanderers fixtures? I think we miss them as an opportunity for players to play in a Saints shirt, to have a Monday night where that stand was very well supported, and to see the next generation through. But that's fundamentally what we're using the PRC for. And I actually think the benefit the players get from training with guys who at Bedford have other jobs, travelling in the Championship and going to tough places like Ampthill or Coldy, is actually very good for them from an experience point of view. So I think both things have pros and cons, but I think the A fixture became less and less reliable because so many other clubs would just pack it through with lone players, and there's no point winning a game or losing a game by 70 points. So to make that competitive and relevant is what we're trying to do in our pathway.
Hey, Liz.
Hello, Charles. So Phil, this year there seems to be so much depth within the squad. You've got so many youngsters stepping up that and performing at the top level. It's inevitable that it'll be very difficult to keep that size of depth and that amount of depth for a long period of time. Does that add pressure this season to have success?
No, I think there's pressure every season to try and create the opportunity for success. And as we know, nothing's guaranteed. But I think that depth, although it will be tricky to keep it together, is a very positive thing. And the whole point of our recruitment team, which is Paul Shields, Julia, myself, and all the other coaches, is to make sure that whoever does move on for whatever reasons, whether it's playing time, whether it's money, whether it's an opportunity in France to try something different, is that we're bringing the right people in to try and plug that gap, which is tough because until somebody walks through the door, you don't actually know what they're going to be like, and you can only go so far in an interview. I'm sure a lot of you resonate with that in terms of employing people. So, yeah, it is difficult, but it's a very good problem to have.
Liz to Liz.
Liz Saunders, really on the subject of recruitment, did you expect the Man Mountain JJ to perform so quickly in the way that he has?
In a word, yes. JJ has huge everything, so I'm told. But I think from watching him, there's lots of different ways of coming in. He had a huge pedigree, basically, and we knew what he was capable of. Didn't feel necessarily that he was getting what he needed at start. He had, for whatever reason, wasn't doing as much on the pitch as we felt he was capable of doing. And so what we've given him here is the opportunity to get that back and to play regularly, I think, is probably the thing that he needed most. And he does things that other people can't do. He punches holes in lines and stuff. So, yep. So, and he's also been really good within the environment in terms of with the squad. He's a different character. You can tell by his hairdo. But he's also been brilliant. He's living out at Toastaway, and he's been coaching Toaster Rugby Club, and they emailed the club last week and said what a fantastic job he's doing, coaching the youngsters, coaching the first team, getting stuck in. I'm sure he's helping behind the bar. So yeah,
it's definitely helping the bar.
The bar, yeah. So I think we saw what the potential he had, and we felt that he would make a big difference to us. So yeah. So but again, you never know what that's going to look like when somebody comes in.
John Gill, as one of the supporters that enjoys the away European fixtures, we've got two great ones in Bordeaux and Pau. What's been difficult is that we've had to book hotels, flights, etc., with more uncertainty around being able to get match tickets. I just wondered if the rules have changed in terms of allocations, or whether we are just not doing it in the same way that we have done in the past.
That's an excellent question. I'm going to let Julia answer it, but it's one that I get asked frequently. So, but I will let Julia answer that for you.
So I think the first thing is that the tickets weren't on sale, and so we've had a number of people sort of contacting the club, being concerned that they haven't been able to get a ticket before those tickets were actually on sale. We will get a dedicated link from Po, which we will send out to our supporters. In fact, has that already happened? Yeah, sorry, that has already happened now. So we've now got a dedicated link from them that our supporters can buy through.
I think it went out, the gentleman saying 30 minutes before it went on general sale. I think actually the link went out to the people that had booked our supporter packages 48 hours prior,
yeah.
and then 24 hours in advance to the season ticket holders. Okay, well, that is something that we can look into, but obviously we were sent a link and sent that out in what we hoped would be advance notice to the people that have bought the packages and then our season tickets. But yeah, that's something that we can take up. Thank you. Oh gosh, we've got hundreds now. And we've got like 5 minutes left, so let's start here. We'll finish all in the room.
Hello, Mandy Edmonds. In view of talking about the European matches, when we go abroad, those teams usually give out lots and lots of flags to their supporters. Have we got any plans to do the same when we get the matches back here?
The matches back here or the matches in Europe? Okay. Julia?
Yeah, so we are generally pretty selective about which matches we give flags out because of the cost of them. So they're about £1 each. And if we're wanting to give 15,000 out, that's obviously quite a lot of money. So we have typically in the past reserved those flags for when we get to knockout fixtures.
A lot of the clubs collect them back at the end of the matches, so they're reused. Particularly in France, they put them back in a box somewhere. We've seen that regularly, so that could be something we could do here, maybe.
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. I didn't know that. So yeah, that's definitely something we could look at.
Yes, sir. Will's behind you with the roving mic.
Hello, it's Jim Gladwin. We had a message from Sports Breaks a few days ago saying that they are still trying to get tickets, and they will let us know in due course.
So I don't think we're going to be able to answer everybody's specific questions about the European trips this evening. So what I would say is if you have any queries about those tickets, if you could contact us via email or contact any one of us that's here tonight, we'll look into it specifically. But I don't know the answer to these detailed questions. Sorry.
Okay, I mean, I don't mind speaking to Sports Breaks again and trying to get their angle on it again.
No, you contact the club. We'll have a look at it for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the back, and then if we got Liz, did you say? So we'll go for this one at the back, and then is there anybody else, or was everybody asking about the sports break, the European? Okay, let's go to at the back.
My name's Ellie. With European, it's not about tickets or anything, but is there any possibility, probably in the near future, of a European kit? My friend has noticed that a lot of Macron branded teams always get a European kit, but we seem not to get one. And I didn't know if we've just not wanted one due to worrying about sales or anything like that, or whether we don't get offered.
Lee Radford's been calling for a European kit for the last 2 years.
So
he will buy anything.
So
So he would love that question.
So in the past, we always used to do a new home kit every season, and then we would keep a away kit for 2 seasons, I believe, and we would have a European kit. And then what we decided to do some years ago was to ditch the European kit and to do a new home and away kit every season. So whether it is possible to bring in a European kit would be a question. I will now kick down the road there to Julia.
I think you sort of hit the nail on the head in your question, is that it's a bit of a commercial gamble. So we have to commit to quite a number of minimum order. So there's a minimum order quantity on kit. So we have to commit to a certain number of products. We've obviously then got to cater for all the different sizes. And we don't know how far we're going to necessarily progress in the European competition each season. So it's not that we can't do it or that we would never do it. It's just that it is a sort of calculated risk. And we do obviously risk having stock to write off at the end of the season if it doesn't go the way that we hoped. We should have done one last season.
Would have won.
I think that probably rounds us off nicely. So it just leaves me to thank Julia and Phil for all your input this evening. It's been really, really informative. To thank Jack for and VIP for sort of coordinating, and for Liz and Will for running around as the roaming mics. But thank you very much, and please all have a very safe journey home, and we hopefully see you on Saturday.